Good morning everybody. So just a quick little learning video today. When you open your Purple Mash activity, you will see that it is a sheet that looks like this with the 5 senses on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm and write some words and phrases down, thinking about different descriptive techniques that we can use our 5 senses for to describe the forest of sin from the book The Minpins, the few pages that we've read so far, because that is going to end up in being a writing description of the forest in tomorrow's writing. So we obviously can use what we see around us if we pretended to be in the forest of sin. But we also have our other senses. Now, this is nothing new to you. You've done this all before, especially with setting descriptions. We have to think about the other senses as well. So things that you could hear, smell, touch, or even taste. So, as I've said, what we're going to do is we're going to think of some descriptions they use to insert into this planning sheet about what we can see, hear, smell, touch, and taste. So we need to think about lots of different things. We need to think about our adjectives, which are our describing words. We need to think about adverbs that we could use together with verbs. We need to think about any similes or even metaphors, because don't forget it's quite easy to change a simile to a metaphor as long as it makes sense. Maybe even some personification. Thinking about the trees and the leaves and things like that, and any other words and phrases that we might need to use. So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. Now, because I'm having to do it on here, it's not very easy to navigate around the sheet. As you can see, I'm having a few problems so far. So I'm just going to jot everything down in this box here that I've just started typing in. Obviously, when you're doing it on Purple Mash, it's a little bit easier to create your text box within each of these circles. And most of you have been doing really well at that. So try and use the button A to type your text in rather than trying to write. Otherwise, if you're trying to write using the pens on screen, then it's quite difficult to do. It's not very easy. And you won't get enough written down as the ideas that might come into your head, you won't be able to get them written down as well. So when we're in the forest, obviously it is known as the forest of sin, so we need to think of some adjectives. So adjectives that might pop into your head: misty, gloomy, shady, luscious, perhaps for the green, green, could be quite bare, could be silent. So lots of different adjectives. So you may want to choose some adjectives to write into each of these senses boxes. So thinking about which adjectives would link with which sense. So for example, misty, you could put in what you see, but you could put in what you touch. And it could also go in what you smell. So just think outside of the box a little bit. Any adverbs, so they're verbs describing words for verbs: how you do something, when you do something, where you do something. So this could go alongside a phrase. So whispered softly. And that's actually using a little bit of personification there as well, because I'm thinking about the trees and the rustle of them. So the rustle of the trees and the leaves whispered softly in the gentle breeze. But the softly part there is my adverb, and the whispered being my verb. Silently stood. Oops. Gloomily. So you could take some of your adjectives and make them into adverbs. Lusciously. Okay, so there we've got some similes and metaphors. Remember, they are simile is where you compare something like or as if it's something else. A metaphor is where you are saying it is something else. So the leaves were as still as statues, if you wanted them to be still. Or to make that into a metaphor, we could say the leaves were statues, stood silently, perhaps. Personification, as we've just said, it's quite nice when you're doing a bit of writing about a forest. You can really think about the leaves and the trees. So again, the leaves whispered softly. They danced one by one to the ground. Trees huddled around each other, closing in. So you can imagine the trees stood around in a huddle, like a little group of them. So you are comparing the trees, the leaves, the ground, as if they are people, and that's why it's called personification, remember. So you might wish to do something like this, where you just have a word bank first of all, and then you can place things into the different senses there. That would be nice. But really, really think about it. What kind of effect are you wanting from your descriptive piece of writing? What kind of effect of the forest are you wanting to portray? Because we finished off where Billy was running away from something that made his blood run cold when he turned around and saw what it was. So are you trying to get that feeling of the forest being mysterious and creepy and quiet and still? Or are you trying to get the feeling of the forest being very light and bright and mystical? It's up to you. That's why I'm going to leave it up to you. However, your words and your phrases within this planning need to reflect that. So try and get an idea in your head as to what you want the Forest of Sin to be to your reader, so that when we're reading it, your writing tomorrow, you will have that description there and we will get that sense of feeling. And you'll have done that by using your 5 senses to help you plan. So have a really good think. Let's get some really, really great vocabulary here. Let's think about exciting vocabulary we could use, words that we've seen in our guided reading books before perhaps, and give it a really good go. Try and move away from the words that you use quite often in your writing. Try and think now a little bit more about magpieing from books that you've read, or from things that you've seen, or from classmates that you've heard their descriptions before. Okay, give it a real good go. Good bit of planning ready for your descriptive writing tomorrow. Goodbye.